So let's start looking at different parts of the brain and looking at what the main majority function of each part of the brain is. So let's start from the oldest structure from the brain. This is we call this old because it's been developed the longest in the humans. And that's the brainstem. So imagine that the spinal cord comes up, and that's the first part that meets the brain is the brainstem. You can see this is this brainstem there. And basically the brainstem does several things. First of all, it processes basic bodily processes, attention and arousal levels. And there's different parts of the brainstem that does this, so we're going to go through each of them separately. But this is what it looks like. This part is the one that's facing front. The walnut-like things are the ones facing back. I'll give you quickly the name of it. It's the reticular formation right here, medulla, the pons, these are like two little balls on that side, and the back is the cerebellum. So the medulla regulates the automatic or involuntary bodily functions. So it's basically the brain that does the automatic things for you, breathing, blinking, digesting. These are things that we don't have to consciously control. So it automatically does that for us. The second part is the pons, and that monitors and regulates the brain activity during sleep and coordinates movements. It does several things. The reticular activating system, if we go back, it's right here, is kind of a web of neurons and mass. And what that does is regulates arousal, alertness, and consciousness. So basically when the first information comes up from the brainstem, it gets passed through the reticular formation. And the reticular formation kind of weeds out what's important, what's not, and directs them to the right place. It regulates arousal, alertness, and also consciousness. So one of the things you might notice in the why we call this the oldest part of the brainstem is because a lot of the action there is very instinctual, right? Heartbeat, breathing, these are things that we can't control, and it's very animalistic. That's one idea why it's so old. There's two more parts. There's the thalamus and the cerebellum. The thalamus, we heard of earlier when we talked about the glands, is a sensory relay station by channeling all the incoming sensory information, except smell, to the appropriate regions of the cortex for processing and back. So this is kind of like a train station that directs where the impulses should go and processes back. Compared to that is the cerebellum. This is the smaller part of the brain, and the cerebellum literally means the smaller brain. This is the two walnut-sized things in the back of the brain we saw here. There's actually two of them matching. So it's like a little brain. And what it does is it does balance and coordination of the muscle movements. It judges time, it modulates your emotions, and discriminates sounds and textures. So these are the basic functions of the cerebellum. Okay, any questions? So far so good?